So YELI just dropped, guys, and I did pull for her, and I'm here to tell you that you might want to hold off on actually summoning for her. Now, her skills might entice you to pull very quickly on her, right? She has this S1 that can steal buffs. It seems like it could be very good for Terramaton and even Aurora, which is definitely true, and some shell bosses. She also has this passive, which makes it so that if she crits, she'll actually use her S1 on the main target and actually can proc it multiple times, which doesn't work with Lily, by the way. It does say active skill, and I did test it with Lily's S1. It does not work. And then she has this S3, which does a lot of AoE damage, which will also cleanse her from her debuffs and give her that crit buff that will be very, very good for building your stats out. Then she has this defense break, which isn't really reliable. Honestly, I don't think her dispel is really reliable either, because you're not going to build her on effect accuracy for the most part. If you do, I think you're lacking damage. So I think she's going to be like a damage dealer. She might be like a hybrid damage dealer, but she looks pretty strong on paper for PvE. But I don't really know if she's worth going for. I definitely will test her out because I do have her. But people are drawing comparisons to something like a Rosa. So she has this like AoE crit buff, and she does a ton of hits and has defense down. And then she has like multiple hits on her S2. It's kind of similar to how Rosa is, if you can find her. So Rosa has multiple hits from her S2 when other people crit for her. And then she also has this crit rate up and also, you know, extra damage and a speed down. So people are saying like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, which can be true. I don't really know if YELI will be that strong, so I'm going to definitely test her out for you guys and show you guys in PvE and PvP. But I think for now, I'm going to build her on full damage and probably just test her out in a lot of the PvE content. I don't think she's going to be good for PvP. If you guys are lattice starved as well, I don't think you should really summon for her because she needs her S2 maxed out. You need this S2 to basically proc on your S1. And also, you probably want to max her S3 for that skill cooldown so it lines up with Revelation. I think her best shell by far for PvE is going to be Revelation. And Revelation's on a 3-turn cooldown. That's not Revelation. And you're going to want to match it with this on her S3. And Revelation is basically so that every time you crit, you do percent true damage to the boss or whatever you're hitting. So it makes it so that it's very important to have it line up with her S3 here because it hits AoE the most amount of times. So it's going to be very hard to build her. She's very lattice heavy. She also looks very stat heavy because I guess you do kind of want effect accuracy somewhat because you want her S1 to land the buff steal if you can on some bosses. So yeah, she might be like a support DPS. You might pair her with Rosa and they'll be very good together, which makes sense because she can buff steal for Rosa and then actually crit, and then Rosa will follow up attack with her S2 passive and then land, you know, the turn meter pushback. So we'll have to see, but I think that she looks like a very heavy investment character. That being said, if you do want to put like 1 or 2 multis in it because you're far from pity, definitely go for it. If you guys are very close to pity, I'd be very like, you know, scared, I guess, to pull for her because you might waste your pity on her. But you definitely want to at least wait for people to test her out, such as myself, because I think she's kind of like a question mark right now. There's not really like a big indicator that she'll be super strong. And because she's like a damage dealing character, she's very susceptible to power creep, unlike Lily, who's a support. So it's gonna be a very, very interesting few days for me testing her. If you don't have Valerian though, I would say at least put 1 multi in it so you can be guaranteed, not guaranteed to get her, but you have a chance to get her. Just because, I guess I can't say that because every other SR is here. But if you're missing some of the key SRs, such as Valerian, Diting, or Catchy, it's actually good to summon on this banner because you don't actually get the RGB SRs. So, you know, Diting, Catchy, Valerian, 3 out of the 6 are very good SR characters. So if you're missing these characters, it's definitely worth pulling on this banner, I'd say, even though you might accidentally pull her. But if you accidentally pull her early, it's not really a bad thing, right? Because you didn't waste that many summons and you got a free LD, not free, but a very early LD SSR. So definitely going to be testing her out. I think that she's mostly going to be a support DPS or DPS. Hard to say. I'm probably going to test her out on both. But I think for her modules, if you're building her as a pure DPS, you definitely go Keen Eye, Fury. And on Revelation, if you are building her as like a support DPS, you can probably still go Revelation and then you go crit chance, effect accuracy on the right side for sure. And then you'll probably put her on like Swift Rush or something just so that she can take more turns, do more dispelling, and then also do a decent chunk of damage because of Revelation. Now that I think about it, I think she'll be like a support DPS because you just get carried off of this Revelation shell. because it does so much damage. And you're probably just going to build her on like effect, accuracy, crit. And you'll probably also pair her with Rosa for Aurora in the hard shell content, and you'll also probably have her with some other characters for Termaton, like Dieting, and they'll probably work very well. So yeah, definitely going to test her out. I'll let you guys know how she is for both PvE and PvP. I'd say don't go crazy on her just because she's a completely new unit and people haven't tested her out. If you're very tempted to pull for her, sure, go for it if you want, but I'm letting you know I'm going to test her out and upload on my channel how she is. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful and informative, and I'll see you guys next time.